President On, we may begin.
Okay, thank you. Just want to welcome everyone to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting today. It is Thursday, February 4th, 2021. The time now is 2:03 p.m. I'm President On. I'll be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners have also joined this meeting virtually via Zoom. We have Vice President Mason, Commissioners Mercado, Naro, and Villa. DCR's Executive Director, Cap Hacker, has also joined this meeting, along with other members of the department and the City Attorney's Office. At this time, I'm going to go over some general housekeeping items before we start the meeting. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually via Zoom and is being live streamed on DCR's website. Those who wish to watch this meeting may do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.org and clicking the About menu item at the top. Under the About menu, click the Commission Meetings link and scroll down to the bottom of the Commission's Meetings page to find the live stream. You can also listen to this meeting by calling council phone at area code 213-621-2489 or area code 818-904-9450 and selecting the number for this meeting. Members of the public who want to offer public comment may call one of the two toll-free numbers at 877-853-5257 or 888-475-4499 and enter meeting ID 860-838-7310. These numbers can also be found on the agenda for this meeting. Agendas for today's meeting can be found on the department's website at cannabis.lacity.org and navigating to the commission page under the About menu. This meeting is being recorded. Therefore, we ask commissioners, department staff, and all the members of the public to please state your name clearly when you speak. The audio file will be posted online within 48 hours of the meeting. When the item you wish to speak on is called, please press *9 to get on the speaking queue. The Commission Executive Assistant will call out each speaker by the last 4 digits of their phone number to identify the caller and will unmute the speaker. The speaker will hear that they have been unmuted on their end of the line. If there are no other items you wish to speak on, you may disconnect from this call and view the meeting via the live stream or dial council phone to listen only. Today we'll be following the agenda order, and today's presentation to the Commission will be available on the department's website within 2 business days from this meeting. Today we'll consider general public comment and single or multiple agenda items together. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute for general public comment and 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. We ask that speakers state whether they are providing general public comment and or which other items they are speaking on before they begin to comment so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, only 1 minute will be provided. Today we'll have a maximum time of 1 hour to be allowed for the combined general comments and single or multiple agenda items. And with that, let's go ahead and open the general public comment and single or multiple agenda items. Speakers can address the Commission on non-agenda items related to items that are within the jurisdiction of the Commission or provide public comment for items in today's agenda by dialing *9 on your telephone. If you're listening via live stream and have called to provide public comment, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate any kind of feedback. Commissioners and staff, please mute your microphones. Mr. Vizo, please call the first speaker.
Sure. Caller with phone number ending in 0184. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Evelyn Scott, and I want to speak on all agenda items.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Again, my name is Evelyn Scott, and I represent the Brinson Consulting Group. We are Phase 3 Round 1 applicants. On October 20th, 2020, we submitted our modification request, and no actions have been made. We have been told week after week that we should expect an email regarding something soon, but something soon is just a vague statement. We need accurate timelines. We've emailed our analyst, Ms. Marissa Garcia. on several occasions, and all of the information that she's been able to give us has just been just delays after delays, week after week. It's just something different. You should be respecting an email. Modifications should start, but no one ever tells us when it's actually going to start. And like I said, again, we put this in on October 20th, 2020, and we have not seen any action. You guys know, me and my family, we have been working on this a very long time, over 3 years. We have seen, some of the most horrific just organization and leadership from the department. And right now, with holding on to our second location, we guys need you to move, and we need to move now. Even with payments, we should have online payment options, and it should be very clear. It should be something on the website. I shouldn't have to have that in an email and can't find that information on the website. It's just getting out of control. And Kat, your leadership is under fire. Like you have to lead, and you're not directing right now. This is not good. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I believe somebody has their live stream on. Can we please mute the live stream?
Josie, can we go to the next caller?
The next caller does not have a number, but you will be asked to be unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commission members. I am Lieutenant Bill Mulder from the West Hollywood Sheriff Station with general comments. I'm speaking today about the marijuana dispensary Cookies on Melrose, which is adjacent to a residential enclave of the city of West Hollywood. Cookies has severely and negatively impacted this residential area. I've also heard from the city of LA, business owners, employees, and residents who have similar concerns for the future and safety of this once quiet and peaceful neighborhood. At the previous commission meeting, I spoke about the litany of problems associated with this business. President On asked DCR staff and LAPD to report back on this issue. The president also directed us to an LAMC section regarding DCR's authority to deny a license, which states issuance of a license would create a significant public safety problem as documented by a law enforcement agency. We thank President On and the Commission for this inquiry and consideration and ask that this issue be placed on their next meeting agenda. West Hollywood Sheriff Station and the City of West Hollywood has dedicated numerous law enforcement and other resources to address this, the problems resulting from cookies. As I said in the last meeting to the Commission, it is critical we solve the problem before anyone is seriously injured or worse, and it is critical we restore the peaceful community that once existed prior to cookies. I thank you for your time and consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 9669, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Lauren Langer for general public comment. Hi, my
Thank
name
you.
is
You have
Lauren
1
Langer.
minute.
Thank you. I'm the Assistant City Attorney in the City of West Hollywood, and I would like to support and reiterate the comments just made by Lieutenant Mulder. We did speak on November 19th to the Commission, advising the Commission on the impacts that Cookies Cannabis Dispensary at 8630 Melrose has caused to the City of West Hollywood. The nuisance activities that have taken place, the increased law enforcement resources, parking enforcement resources, and all of the impacts to the community have been well documented to the city. The City of West Hollywood had to install a temporary cul-de-sac in order to ensure that all of the commercial activities could stay focused in the commercially zoned properties and not further impact the residential businesses. We have been in communication with DCR. We'll provide any information that we have. We'd like to get this situation resolved, and we ask that DCR staff respond to the Commission's request for the last meeting to put this on a future agenda in order to resolve the issues that have been impacting the City of West Hollywood since Cookies has been in operation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 5511, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. My name is Whitney Beatty. I'm a Phase 3 Round 1 social equity applicant with an application in. And I wanted to speak generally on the delays that we're seeing. I've been paying rent on a location since June of 2019, and it's become untenable with the amount of delays we're seeing. I have submitted a modification request to the DCR. I've called multiple times, and I have had no movement on that modification request. In addition, it becomes almost impossible for a lot of us social equity applicants to be able to secure investment when we cannot tell investors when this process is going to move forward because we have gotten no ETA and no timeline. Ultimately, what ends up happening is this is the opposite of what we're supposed to have, which is prioritization. We've allowed other larger companies to be able to move in, to do what they need to do, to build bases, and we've financially drained the social equity applicants from all the money that they had coming into this. And I want to encourage the commission to move forward swiftly in allowing us to get our licenses. As a single mother, we cannot hold on for much longer. We've done everything that we're supposed to do. And I appreciate the commission taking the time to solve these issues.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 3524, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Mikey Joni. I'm a Phase 3 Round 1 social equity applicant. I have a pending application. I would like to consider DCR to give us a chance to transfer our ownership interest now and not having to move to temporary approval. I don't know if you guys realize what situation we are and how tough it is for us to compete with legal fees and costs and everything. And some people realize they can't just do it. They don't have the resources, not the power, not the intelligence to move on. And to put us in a temporary approval would make it really hard for us and expose us to other liabilities and legal fees, which the money we don't have. Some people just realize they can't handle it. It's not that the fault of the DCR, but it's really tough just being not really wealthy and having to deal with people who have so many resources. And at the end, it's just like it's capitalism and it's competition. And so I would like to ask the DCR if you guys can just give us a chance to get out like an exit strategy like the wealthy investors have at any time, and just to make it a fair game for us. And some people realize they have family issues, they have stuff to take care of, or they're just scared, they can't deal with the situation. Please just give the people a chance to get out of this in a clean way and not force them to do things and make more mistakes or feel really like I say, not feeling well about the whole situation. It's really stressful and it even affects the health of people. So I asked the DCR just to please give us a chance, just as much as wealthy investors have, to get out anytime, meaning now, before we have
Thank you.
to
Your
go on.
time's up.
Okay.
Caller with phone number ending in 4582, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Ty Freeman, the Executive Director for the California Minority Alliance. I pray that all of you are continuing to be safe. It's been a time. I called to speak in support today for the Executive Director's report relative to the processing of the applications for testing labs, the City Council's actions requiring fee extension, and also, of course, the processing in round 1 and round 2. I want to summarize the act of the commission by stating a vigorous effort towards moving forward to legalization for all of those who are currently waiting is of utmost importance, both for the city economically, but also for those individuals economically. And overall, commissioners, for this program called social equity as a whole, and you all have done a great job in the best, including the department under the circumstances. And at this point, we at CMA strongly support the efforts and believe that a continued focus in allocating the resources to the DCR and advocating for all of those city council members who appointed you commissioners, including the mayor, to ensure actively through a resolution today that these actions become the foremost effort of the city. Would be one active effort to deal with the anxiety that you're hearing on the callers today. And it is our hope that the commission takes such an action in support of the department and moving forward the licensing, the payment, and the process. I want to close to all the commissioners and to the director of the department and all of the staff and those who are listening. It has been a long journey. It has been a very long journey with a lot of bumps in the road. And we've all learned from that. And I think at this point, our efforts collectively are more powerful, more fruitful than our opinions that may have separate negative impact on our goal ahead. So at this point, we look forward to the commission being active through this challenge of COVID, assuring the resources are to the department by virtue of a resolution in support of those agenda items and action items today, so that social equity applicants can move forward and beyond the steps that they're currently at and the progress that has currently been made. And with that, I encourage everyone to continue to be safe and let's move this program forward. Let's get these invoices out and let's close out some positive results before May. Let us as a public and interest holders in this industry and the commissioners make a solemn oath to set our own deadline of 4/20 being the time of which all those, quote unquote, in the hopper are at least moving along progressively in the process that they can. I thank you again for your time. Thank you much.
Thank you. If anyone wishes to make public comment, please dial *9. Caller with phone number ending in 6760. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Kika Keith, and I want to make general comments as well as on the application modification.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Certain, thank you. So, we're following the words and the policies outlined by the DCR. And right now, as you've heard, we are in need of swifter actions, and we're in need of accountabilities of the words that are spoken. In the last workshop, we were told that there would be expedited services at LADBS for our permits. When we've made attempts to do that, that person hasn't even been informed at LADBS. That's a problem for us moving through the process. The fee deferral program. We've been promised We know that there are funds made available, but there is yet any place that we can apply for a fee deferral. And then this application modification, we're following the steps and the rules, but at this point, as we've applied in October and November, and I'm talking to the Office of Finance, and they're saying there is no system in place yet for the procedures for us to pay our invoices. You know, there has to become a point where we're just expecting some accountability to the fact that we're still paying rent since 2018. And so though we appreciate being able to move forward in the process, we're seeking some accountability and some expedited needs, whether it's folks working overtime, triple time, whether it's hiring more people, whether it's firing people. There is a need right now for us to be able to go through this process, follow the rules as they're outlined, but we can no longer sit around commission meeting after commission meeting being told that these programs are being developed. And what is really at the heart of this is that the cost of doing business for social equity applicants or anyone else applying should not equate to losses based on inefficiencies of administration and developing programs. You know, this was great the first couple of years, but we are sincerely saying, not because we want to throw dirt on the DCR, the department, but because we're suffering out here. As I heard the sister speak who is a single mother as I am, we've done our part getting investors, but investors are dropping out. We're losing our placement after all these years, and it's based on us not knowing how to communicate with our investors, what's happening and what's next. I would really just ask, and hopefully, Kat, you're coming with some good information in this report, but especially on this application modification, we're really seeking expedited opportunities to go ahead and process our applications. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 7515, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon, Commission. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm clearly hearing the emotions from the other applicants, law officials, community members, and this process that was rolled out for social equity is, to say the least, not solid. Understandably, this is a new industry, so to speak. I'm calling in based off of the situation that I'm in. I've applied for PCN, and this program was rolled out in a way into which it was.
I believe the call dropped. I'll call the next speaker. Caller with phone number ending in 3946, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a resident on Kings Road, speaking on cookies, which is unlike any other dispensary. As residents on Kings Road and local business, as residents on Kings Road and other local business owners, we're exhausted with the empty promises from you guys. We've been told multiple times by LA officials that they are making efforts to fix the ongoing issues that have destroyed our neighborhood because of the cookie dispensary. The daily armed robberies at gunpoint, reports of shots fired, hit and run accidents, the assaults, destruction of private property, illegal drug deals, including the reselling of actual cookies products, COVID violations all over the place, and all the others mentioned before. It's still very questionable as to us as to why cookies have never been put on a meeting agenda at all, even once, and why the city of LA has not revoked their license, especially after seeing multiple news stories about LA officials being brought up on charges of pay or play schemes. When is this going to stop? When is it going to be taken care of? On a larger scale in general, due to failed crime, murder, and homelessness, issues they continue to rise and spiral our city into a cesspool war zone, and city officials continue to do nothing other than offer disingenuous sympathy and empty promises, and they continue to make our lives even worse by implementing more ineffective legislation that all in the name of revenues. We continue to find this despicable and sincerely hope that action will be taken to fix these problems. Again, a very simple and obvious first step for our neighborhood itself would be to revoke Cookie's license, and yet this still hasn't been done. If it's not done immediately, hopefully the officials responsible will be held accountable at the ballot box or through an investigation of some sort, maybe some sort of pay or play scheme, who knows? I mean, this is crazy and it does not make sense. We have all simply had enough. Cookie's license needs to be revoked immediately before someone dies in our once calm, cool, and very safe neighborhood, including all of West Hollywood. They've been responsible for
Thank you.
so
Your
much
time is up.
in the news.
If anyone else wishes to make public comment, please dial *9. Caller with phone number ending in 7515. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yes, I was speaking but disconnected. I was actually calling on general comments as well as the PCN process.
Okay, thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Sir,
Sure,
would you
As
mind,
stated.
sir, would you mind speaking clearly and advise us of your name, please, for the record?
Sure. My name is Sean Lyons, representing Greenstock LLC. I'm a social equity applicant. Again, when the PCN process was rolled out prematurely, I followed the guidelines and requirements of the department, and those rules changed. Upon those rules changing, there was maintenance done. My information was corrupted, and I was unable to finalize my application to the PCN process. I've just spoken with DCR directly, sent countless emails, and have gotten not a single response. I can relate to other social equity applicants that have been paying for leases when they were required by social equity applicants. And as I've stated in multiple emails, I'm at the end of my rope with this. There's no resolution, no response. And again, if this is happening to one social equity applicant, how many other applicants is this happening to? So simply requesting that DCR and the commission looks into these things and really goes back to the reason the social equity program was structured, and really look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. President On, I don't see any more raised hands. Oh, one
We
more.
got one more? Yeah.
Yes. Caller with phone number ending in 3447. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Do I have 2 minutes to speak?
What items are you speaking on?
Just general comment.
Thank you. That's 1 minute. And can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Sarah Agbula, and I'm calling to find out, will it ever be addressed regarding those of us that are still paying building rent, or regarding the need to change buildings that are phase 2? We're still kind of in a holding pattern here with no inspections. And I'm just trying to find out if the department will be sending out any notification for those of us that need to change buildings. And I hope the department is aware of, right now, investors don't even want to deal with anyone in LA City because they think that it's a joke right now. So everyone that I know, including myself, we're at risk of losing investors because they don't believe that the city can operate and move us through quickly enough. And then we're already social equity, so it's a double whammy against us. So I'm just trying to find out if they're aware of how they look, not only to those of us going through the process, but to investors in just across the world. We look a hot mess, and we're looking for resolutions so that we can move forward as business owners, and that so that people can trust us, because right now they trust us, but they don't trust the system and the process for this application. And so it would be great to actually get some forward movement and for the department to stick to their word. That's all.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 6955, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yes, this is Jadili Johnson with BMC Genetics, and I also applied in that was for phase 2, and I applied in phase 3 for Hill and Field Corporation. And basically, I don't think anybody has taken into consideration all the other applicants outside of the 200 that have been affected by real estate, holding real estate and any other things to maintain. And then to be told that even though it was an unfair application process, that they are just disregarded and we're only going to go down to 100 or 200 applications. At this point, nobody's talked about them. And then to not process the 102 applications that you have, or to not get those people going along, is even more of an injustice. Then on top of the fact that these people are holding properties that were previously redlined, and those same properties that you're expecting them to go out and get, these properties were part of deed restrictions for people of African descent back in the 70s, 60s, 40s, and 50s. So our families weren't even allowed to even own these properties or go after any industrial properties or any properties rated C, B, or A on the redlining zoning map that the FHA and HOLC created. So we have to take into account that people holding properties, that's rare to even get a property, but then to be holding it for so much period of time is like you're wiping people's whole fortunes, families, and retirements without taking into consideration that nobody's even operating and making any cash back. So to speak of an investor, I've lost 5 investors, 10 investors, and I'm sure everybody else has lost that many more. So we have to really think about what work are we doing, and are we following the federal patterns and practices, and for those people and participants that should be in benefit that are out of benefit right now. And the violations of the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act and the antitrust with starting cartels and letting other people operate before other people and putting caps on licenses and having oversaturation and undersaturation in certain areas is a major problem. And these are major class actions that should be pursued on a federal level for treble damages.
Thank you. Your time is up.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. If anyone wishes to make public comment, please dial *9. Caller with phone number ending in 8327, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Ryan Brown, representing Socalatry. I applied in phase 3 for retail. I didn't win, although we held property, which was a total waste of time and waste of money. Now, I was told that we have priority on phase 3 with delivery, distribution, and manufacturing. And once again, we're holding a property and we're not getting anywhere. We've done everything that was instructed of us, application-wise, pre-application-wise, including the first set of fees. I've continuously contacted DCR through email, also phone, no response half the time, or they'll say, hey, we're going to get back to you in the next week, and I still haven't heard anything. I'm wondering what to do next. I'm stuck.
Thank you. President On, I don't see any more raised hands.
Okay, let's give it a, oh, there's one more.
Oh, I believe that person already provided public comment.
Okay. So no more speakers?
Let me ask one more time. If anyone wishes to provide public comment, please dial *9. Okay, there's one more here. Caller with phone number ending in 7118. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, yeah, my name is Sean Stanley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sean Stanley, social equity applicant. I got one of the second 200. Just wanted to say, it sounds like a lot of people on this call are going through the same thing. So if you are part of phase 3, round 1, I would say get a pen and paper and reach out to me, because we're gonna put this thing together if the DCR can't. So we got like 5 seconds. All right, my email, Sean, S-E-A-N, Stanley, S-T-A-N-L-E-Y, 02@gmail. Give me a call. Let's all put this together. DCR is doing what they do, but we got to figure out our game plan. A lot of us have come together in different groups, but it's, you know, it's time that this thing gets real solidified. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. I believe that's all the callers that we have.
Okay. Want to thank everyone for their comments. At this time, I'm going to close both the general public comment and the single or multiple agenda item periods. With that, let's move on to item number 1 of the agenda. Commissioners, you should have received the advanced calendar. Regarding future meeting dates, please take a look. And if there are any planned absences, please advise at this time. Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the approval of the minutes. We were sent the minutes of the last meeting for review. If you've taken a look and if you approve, please provide a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. Commissioner Villa.
Commissioner Villa has a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Mercado, I can second.
We have a second from Commissioner Mercado. Mr. Vizo, please call the roll.
Sure. Commissioner Villa, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Mercado, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Mason, how do you vote?
Mason, aye.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner On, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 and the motion passes.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to item number 2. Item 2 is the Executive Director's Report. Ms. Packer, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We do have an Executive Director's Report to share this afternoon. I want to thank the public for joining and participating in public comment, particularly our applicants who are going through our application process and those members of the public and various agencies from the City of West Hollywood. This body, the Cannabis Regulation Commission, is an important vehicle for members of the public to share information with the city about cannabis and cannabis-related matters. And today's comments show how much work there is to be done to ensure that we're creating an environment that is equitable and that also promotes public health and safety. Before I even get into our kind of formal remarks and beginning the executive director's report for today. I would like to articulate to the members of the public who have called in that I hear you. I recognize that this process has been long delayed for many applicants who have been going through the process, particularly because the ordinance required that folks had secured property in advance. You have a commitment from this department that we're doing everything that we can to move this process forward in as expeditious as a manner as possible. It's not a surprise due to COVID that the city is going through a fiscal crisis, and that has caused various constraints on the department relative to contracting. That, of course, impacts some of the social equity programs that we're partnering with third parties through contracts to provide. It has also impacted different personnel related matters like hiring to be able to bring on additional personnel to move this work forward. Between the different phases of licenses and different application modifications that we currently have on our plate, we have over 850 applications that we are processing, and we have a total of 6 licensing analysts and 4 support staff who are managing this caseload. I know that sometimes that means that folks aren't getting responses in as timely a fashion as we'd like, but we want to make sure that we are responding to every single inquiry that comes into DCR licensing. That is our preferred method of communication so that we can track specifically when applicants and members of the public are engaging with us. So if you are a licensee or applicant, please continue to engage with us via DCR licensing. I am instructing our licensing staff to respond in timely matters, and members of the public who are calling or trying to engage with us on non-licensing matters, that they could contact us at cannabis@lacity.org. But again, we're going to continue to make progress with our various policies and programs to the best of our ability. We're currently working with City Council and the Mayor's office to try and navigate through some of the bureaucratic challenges that face not only the Department of Cannabis Regulation, but particularly are impacting the department and our applicants. We continue to make the argument that it's in the city's best interest to transition our applicants into licensees. That's in the economic interest of our applicants and licensees in the social equity program, but also in the economic interest of the city. So I continue to appreciate members of the public and their support so that we have the resources that we need to continue to move our policies and programs forward. It's a new year. We hope that despite COVID-19, 2021 is the most productive year that the department has to date. We know that we're in the process of moving forward and implementing policies that the City Council passed in the summer of 2020. And we've made much progress in that regard when the city advanced its cannabis-related policies by adopting comprehensive amendments to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance, which were first recommended by DCR in a series of reports. These reports included amendments that established policies intended to help streamline the cannabis licensing process and to improve and expand the city's social equity program by doubling the number of retail licenses available to social equity applicants in Phase 3 Retail Round 1 from 100 to 200, restricting retail and delivery opportunities to social equity applicants until January 1st of 2025, and revising the definition of equity share to ensure that social equity applicants have meaningful ownership of their businesses, and establishing a financial grant program to provide financial assistance. The financial grant program and the business licensing compliance assistance that social equity applicants can participate in. Dr. Amani Brown, our social equity program director, will be sharing information later on in the presentation about that. But these are some of the things that have been impacted by some of the contracting restrictions that have been placed on all departments because of the COVID-19 crisis. We're hopeful that in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we will be able to launch these programs and are hopeful that they will provide much needed relief. We plan on making access, for example, to grants to social equity applicants who participated in Phase 3 Retail Round 1 to try and mitigate some of the finances and costs that folks have endured to date. However, with the adoption of the comprehensive ordinance amendments, DCR began to amend our internal procedures and prepare external information. Folks may have noticed that in the fall and winter of last year, we completely redesigned our website and now have close to a dozen video tutorials intended to simplify and make more accessible information related to our various application processes. Before the end of the year, DCR began to accept new applications for delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing labs. And after several delays, both associated with the audit, ordinance amendments, and COVID, it wasn't until December, early December, December 2nd, that DCR completed identifying the 200 applicants who are eligible for further processing in Phase 3 Retail Round 1. With the conclusion of Phase 3 Retail Round 1, DCR has, in the city of Los Angeles, has the largest cohort of social equity applicants who are eligible to move forward in the retail process. And we want all of these applicants to, as expeditiously as possible, become licensees. Getting these applicants licensed is our top priority. As such, we've recently modified several internal processes to allow these applicants to move forward in a more expedited review process. Just earlier last week, some applicants who had submitted all of the documents necessary to move forward in the temporary approval process began to receive notices of local compliance underway to allow them to begin to move forward in the state process. And Assistant General Manager Jason Colleen will share information, more information about that notice of local compliance underway letter, the process, and how other folks will begin to receive it later on in the presentation. We also recognize that COVID-19 has exacerbated challenges not only for the city, but for the cannabis industry and specifically for social equity applicants. And that's why, in addition to trying to process these applications with the limited staff that we have as quickly as possible, we are preparing to launch several initiatives to provide additional support. I know that folks will say that they've been hearing about these initiatives for a very long time, and that's because we've been working on them for a very long time. Just navigating through the city's contracting process to be able to stand these up. And of course, that's been increasingly challenging with some of the personnel and contracting freezes that the city is undergoing, but we're confident that because of resources made available through the California Equity Grant, we will be able to launch the financial grant program where we'll make $5 million available to social equity applicants. And as I previously articulated, business licensing and compliance assistance, whereby we'll be able to provide technical support to our social equity applicants. We're also preparing to launch an initiative that essentially will allow us to conduct stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions virtually. This is going to be increasingly important, particularly for the folks who are applicants and licensees who called in and shared their feedback and input about the process. We want to be able to collect this feedback in a more intentional way and engage with applicants and licensees in a more intentional way. We have very limited communications and engagement staff right now, but recognize that folks are looking for more timely responses and just more proactive and regular engagement from the department. So we're seeking to do this through our stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions initiatives. Through this initiative, we'll be able to collect stakeholder surveys, collect public comment in a more robust way and in ways outside of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. And we'll be holding a series of interviews and facilitated panels to discuss things like how we can improve the licensing program, how we can improve the social equity program, seeking input from stakeholders on things such as the development of our corporate social responsibility report. So please stay tuned. And if you aren't already, sign up for our email alerts at cannabis.lacity.org so that you can participate in this particular engagement effort when it launches. We're hopeful that it will be able to launch next month. We are hoping and are intentional about the fact that 2020 will be a productive year for the department, and I look forward to continuing to work with our partners in the City Council and the Mayor's Office to ensure that Los Angeles has an equitable and successful cannabis industry that supports the ongoing health and economic recovery of our city and its residents. To that end, I'd like to thank the public and the commission. I'll transition now into our regular executive director's report. The remainder of today's report will cover the status of the city's cannabis licensing and social equity program, including a summary of activities since the last Cannabis Regulation Commission and an update on the following. Today, licensing staff or DCR staff will discuss a general overview of the application process, temporary invoicing procedures, phase 3 retail round 1 application processing, phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing application processing, testing lab license application processing, the processing of public convenience or necessity requests, the aforementioned notice of local compliance underway, which allows applicants to apply for their state license. And we'll also share information about the City Council's recent action regarding a fee extension motion, as well as an anticipated timeline for the implementation of social equity eligibility verification for phase 3 retail round 2. I've instructed staff who are participating in sharing information related to today's executive director's report to wherever possible, be as specific as possible about the timelines associated with this process. We recognize that it's important for members of the public to have a sense of how long this process may take. Sometimes that's difficult for us to ascertain because this is the first time that we are implementing several of the processes that were amended, that were comprehensively amended by City Council last year. Despite that fact, we're going to do our best today to share anticipated timelines, even if the timelines are longer than folks may hope. We hope that by sharing that information, people can at least plan accordingly. I've been in communication with some of my colleagues around the state about their timelines, and the reality is that local processes for folks to receive authorization across California, and just to share what the timelines associated are in Sacramento and San Francisco, which have much smaller caseloads than the city of Los Angeles. On average, it's taking both of those jurisdictions, Sacramento and San Francisco, a total of 18 to 24 months for folks to receive authorization to operate. And that's not just because of their local cannabis offices. That often is a product of the fact that at the local level, there are several other permitting agencies that applicants and businesses have to go through. Despite these realities of the timelines associated with local application processes, we're going to do our best to decrease application review times and to decrease response times, and appreciate your continued support in that regard. Today's report summarizes the current and upcoming licensing and social equity program initiatives. Throughout the remainder of the presentation of this report, my team and I will provide updates since the last commission meeting. We'll continue to do our best to mark transition between slides for those folks who'd like to follow along without video. I will now hand things over to Public Relations Specialist Raina Plummer, who will quickly review the topics that will be discussed.
Thank you, Director Packer. Today's summary of DCR's activities to date will include information regarding the following: the November 19th, 2020 CRC meeting recap, general administration, communications updates, social equity program updates, legislative updates, and licensing updates. I will now continue with a summary of DCR activities since the last meeting of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Much has happened since this commission met back on November 19th, 2020. In addition to providing a summary of DCR's progress, DCR shared new information, including but not limited to Phase 3 Retail Round 1, Phase 3 Delivery, Distribution, Non-Volatile Manufacturing, and Testing Lab Application Processing, Processing of Public Convenience or Necessity Requests, and the social equity program eligibility verification. Since the November meeting, the department has advanced licensing application processes, worked to streamline and enhance our communication strategy, partnered with reputable organizations to develop robust opportunities for our social equity applicants, stakeholders, and community members, and have made progress on various outreach, engagement, education, training, compliance, and policy efforts related to our licensing and social equity program. The Department of Cannabis Regulation continues to take every precaution possible to prevent the spread of COVID-19. To help protect the health of Angelenos and staff, and in line with Mayor Garcetti's directives, DCR has made certain operational changes as described below. DCR's public service counters are currently closed. DCR's licensing and information services are still available online at cannabis.lacity.org or by phone at 213-978-0738 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings are being held virtually using Zoom or live streamed on the website, and DCR is conducting virtual inspections. The department is currently assessing how to restore and improve services modified as a result of COVID-19. Vice President Mason, throughout the last few commission meetings, you have asked about our initiatives around community engagement and outreach. The department has spent the past 14 months developing a stakeholder meeting and community listening session initiative with resources originally made available through the general fund in 2019. The stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions seek to enlist engagement from a diverse group of thought leaders, community-based organizations, nonprofits, businesses, educators, and others via the collection of stakeholder comments, administration of stakeholder surveys, and administration of one-on-ones, on-screen stakeholder interviews, and on-screen facilitated stakeholder discussions. The department has completed contracting with a selected vendor, MBI Media, who will design and facilitate stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions. A notice to proceed will be issued in early February. The department held a kickoff meeting with MBI on Monday, December 21st, 2020, and a follow-up meeting on Monday, January 11th, 2021. During these meetings, DCR and MBI discussed specific goals, timelines, outreach strategies, and next steps. In addition, DCR and MBI developed overall goals for the program that include effectively communicating and presenting engaging information to diverse audiences, developing and administering programming to collect and analyze stakeholder input through a variety of methodologies, such as stakeholder interviews, surveys, on-screen facilitated stakeholder discussions, and one-on-one interviews, developing a detailed report regarding the program, purpose, methodologies used, stakeholder input, and related analysis that will assist DCR in making recommendations to Commission and City Council regarding stakeholder identified priorities, policy, and programming, and developing and producing a video highlighting the program methodologies used and stakeholder input and related analysis. The department plans on launching this initiative in March 2021. While the larger initiative just mentioned will launch in March 2021, the department is still engaging with stakeholder groups on an ongoing basis. On Thursday, January 21st, 2021, the department attended the South Los Angeles Alliance of Neighborhood Councils monthly meeting alongside Department of Neighborhood Empowerment General Manager Raquel Beltran. During the meeting, DCR shared information to assist key stakeholders in understanding their role in the public convenience or necessity process for commercial cannabis retail applicants. In addition to sharing a video created for this process, the department answered questions asked by SLANT committee members and the attendees. The resources presented at the meeting, which are also located on the website, include a video tutorial, the information and procedure bulletin, and the stakeholder input form. The department also participated in a moderated discussion with the Los Angeles County Bar Association In advance of the conversation, attendees were encouraged to submit questions. More than 40 questions were submitted, covering an array of topics, including updates on application processes and the Pro Bono Legal Services Partnership. The discussion was attended by more than 75 LACPA members. The department also strives to provide our applicants and licensees with the latest information in a variety of ways. To this end, on Saturday, December 19th, 2020, DCR hosted a social equity workshop for Phase 3 retail round 1 applicants eligible for further processing. This workshop covered a number of topics related to the application process, application modifications, including application forms and documents, equity ownership, and additional programming and resources made exclusively available to social equity applicants. The recording of the presentation and PDF file of the presentation are available online under the About menu under DCR Events. Lastly, I'd like to briefly mention 2 legislative updates that our stakeholders should be aware of. The first update will be reviewed in depth later in this report. First, on January 27, 2021, the City Council voted to approve a motion that would allow the late payment of 2020 and 2021 cannabis renewal fees until March 31st, 2021, extended fee payment deadlines from 10 days to 30 days. The city attorney is currently drafting an ordinance to effectuate the ordinance, which will be submitted to council as soon as it is complete, and allow cannabis businesses to submit late renewal application or fee payments between January 1st, 2021 and February 28th, 2021, after the expiration of a license or temporary approval. In addition, in January 2021, both the state and federal legislatures reconvened for the new 2021-2022 legislative session. DCR will work with the mayor, city council, and this commission to support any and all legislation on the state or federal level that furthers the goal of developing a more equitable, sustainable, and successful commercial cannabis market in Los Angeles. I will now turn the presentation over to Social Equity Program Director, Dr. Imani Brown, to provide a summary of social equity program-related activities since the last commission meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. Can everyone hear me clearly? Good afternoon, commissioners. I hope that everyone is well. Today, I'd like to cover updates related to our social equity program. Now, I know it's been a while, but I'd like to remind everyone of the mission of the social equity program, which is to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Next slide. The department supports the mission of the social equity program through established program benefits and resources, including application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, access to a fee deferral program, a financial grant program, access to pro bono legal services, and California social equity resources. DCR continues to develop and improve programming to accomplish this mission. In 2019, DCR was allocated $5 million from the city's general fund budget to use by the department for the social equity program and related outreach initiatives. The $5 million consist of $3 million for business licensing and compliance assistance, $1.1 million for education and outreach, $750K for a fee deferral program, and $150,000 for an expanded social equity criteria analysis, which has been completed, and California equity grant resources. In addition to these resources, the department has worked to secure additional grant funding from the state of California. Next slide. On December 1st, 2020, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, or GOBIZ, released the fiscal year 2021's grant solicitation for the Cannabis Equity Grants Program for local jurisdictions. DCR prepared the CEG grant application for local jurisdictions, and it was submitted on February 1st, 2021. DCR also submitted annual and periodic reports to the Business of Cannabis Control and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development in accordance with the terms of the California Cannabis Equity Grants Program for local jurisdictions. The demographic survey, which was distributed from November 21st, 2020 to December 18th, 2020, was included in the reports. In October 2019, the first California Equity Grant was awarded and announced. The city was awarded approximately 1.8. Can you go to the next slide, please? I'm sorry, go back. The city was awarded approximately $1.1 million from this grant, which will be used for a financial grant program. In April 2020, the second CEG grant was announced and the city received a little over $6 million, which was received in August of 2020. The city has dedicated $5 million from this grant, which will be used for a financial grant program. With the resources from the city and the state, DCR is able to support the social equity program's resources and benefits. One benefit available to eligible applicants relates to the application processing. Qualified applicants may receive priority processing relative to non-equity applicants. For example, due to recent amendments as provided in the Los Angeles Municipal Code, DCR will exclusively process retail and delivery license applications from social equity applicants until January 1st, 2025. DCR is currently accepting applications for delivery, non-volatile manufacturing, distribution, and testing. Applicants interested in these license types should visit the DCR website for more information on how to apply. DCR has developed several resources on our website, including information and procedure bulletins, workflows, and video tutorials to aid applicants in the various license application processes. Next slide. Since the allocation of funding mentioned earlier, the department has made great strides in the development of the Social Equity Program's Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance Program and additional outreach and engagement initiatives. On June 5th, 2019, the department released the first of two requests for qualifications seeking vendors to develop and implement the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance Program. DCR has been working through the city's internal contracting processes for the first and the second RFQs. To date, we have selected vendors, executed contracts, and will be issuing notices to proceed to develop and implement BLC assistance citywide and in the next 2 to 3 weeks. These firms will develop DCR's business licensing and compliance programming related to the following scopes of services: cannabis licensing and regulation, business permitting, education and training services, general business development services, cannabis-specific business development services, cannabis technology business development services, workforce development, job outreach, and job placement services, as well as related services. DCR will be conducting surveys throughout this initiative to ascertain the effectiveness of the program and what additional information is most needed in real time for the stakeholder community. A kickoff meeting with the selected consultants took place on January 13, 2021. DCR is in the process of conducting one-on-one meetings with each consultant, and as previously stated, will issue notice to proceed in February. Next slide. Now, some information about our fee deferral program. The Los Angeles Municipal Code 104.20.4 II establishes a fee deferral program that is available to social equity applicants. Department of Cannabis Regulation is currently working to establish the requirements to participate in the program, which will be established in the rules and regulations. $750,000 was made available from the city's general fund. To date, DCR has made $250,000 available to Phase 2 non-retail manufacturing, cultivation, and distribution applicants. The remaining $500K will be made available to Phase 3 applicants. Participating in the fee deferral program may be subject to the availability of resources. Additional fee deferral dollars will be made available as resources allow. DCR is prioritizing the allocation of resources made available through the California Equity Grant via the Financial Grant Program, as these resources are time sensitive. As such, DCR will not begin additional allocation of the fee deferral program. Financial Grant Program, along with business licensing and compliance assistance and the fee deferral program, DCR has been working to launch its financial grant program. The department recognizes that capital is a barrier to entry for many social equity applicants, and as such, we're working on initiatives to provide applicants direct financial support with the resources we currently have available. With funds awarded from the California Cannabis Equity Grant, DCR is currently working to establish a financial grant program that will dedicate $5 million in grants to local equity applicants and licensees. The department is currently working to complete various administrative and programming responsibilities associated with the launch of the official grant program, which will be published in the department's rules and regulations. DCR has selected a qualified contractor, has an executed contract, and is in the process of issuing a notice to proceed. DCR has named the financial grant program SEED, which is an acronym for Social Equity Entrepreneur Development. These resources will be used to provide equity applicants and licensees with startup and ongoing cost for items such as leases, equipment, capital improvements, work development, technical assistance, etc. The department hopes to launch this program in March of 2021. Again, DCR is prioritizing the allocation of resources made available through the California Equity Grant via the Financial Grant Program, as these resources are time sensitive. As such, DCR will not begin additional allocations via the fee deferral program until the Financial Grant Program begins. Next slide. I'll provide an update on our partnership with the Los Angeles County Bar Association as it relates to the social equity program and our applicants. The Los Angeles County Bar Association's Cannabis section, in partnership with DCR, has created a pro bono legal assistance program, which will operate through the Bar Association's Smart Law Referral Service for Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants determined to be eligible for further processing. DCR has sent 3 communications with instructions on how to submit the pro bono legal services survey, along with the legal services authorization agreement for Phase 3 Retail Round 1 social equity individual applicants who have been deemed eligible for further processing and who are interested in receiving limited pro bono legal services. These services are open to all 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants. A communication with additional information was sent to applicants on January 2nd, 2021. Depending on demand and availability, these services may be expanded to other applicants in the future. The goal of this referral service is to promote fair and equitable participation in the licensed commercial cannabis industry and to foster a level playing field as it relates to access to legal counsel and help deter predatory practices targeting the social equity community. This is an excellent opportunity for applicants to connect with attorneys about their legal needs. The LA County Bar Association is currently working to develop the program and is continuing with the recruitment of qualified legal professionals. Please check your emails or contact your designated analyst if you have questions. The department, in concert with LACBA, plans to launch the Pro Bono Legal Services Initiative within the next several weeks. Please stay tuned for communications and updates. And last, I'd like to share resources provided by the state of California for equity applicants. The Bureau of Cannabis Control has an equity unit. DCR held a joint workshop with the Bureau's Equity Liaison Unit, the Cal Cannabis Cultivation Licensing Division, and the Manufactured Cannabis Safety Branch in December 2020 for Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants. Additionally, BCC's Equity Unit Contact information and information regarding resources made available to social equity applicants can be found on DCR's website under the Social Equity Program. I will now turn it over to Jason Killeen, Assistant Director, who will provide an update on DCR's licensing program and related activities.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I will be presenting several licensing updates. Next slide, thank you. Please stay on this slide for a few minutes. What I've done is I've consolidated the public comments kind of into my notes that I would like to address as part of this process. So I apologize in advance because a lot of the information is not going to be on this slide. Between the various licensing phases, DCR has more than 850 applications, 375 pre-applications, 275 modification requests, and over 50 PCN requests currently under review. At the next commission meeting, DCR will share a comprehensive data table that illustrates where applications are in the processing workflow by key application milestones. In terms of processing capacity, DCR has 9 full-time personnel, 6 licensing analysts, and 3 administrative personnel. Unfortunately, we lost one as of today, who are dedicated to processing the approximately 1,500 records, answering phone calls, and responding to emails. DCR strives to improve response times to emails and phone calls, as well as decrease processing times despite these resource constraints. It's important for applicants and licensees to provide complete information the first time they submit documents for review, or they may experience significant processing delays. The customer support team at City Hall, which is operated by the Office of Finance, was unfortunately required to quarantine for 2 weeks due to a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. Between limited staffing, social distancing, and public health protocols, DCR and the Office of Finance have been required to revise our payment processing protocols, which has led to delays. These unanticipated delays from early December through the end of January have resulted in a modified process, which was sent to applicants and licensees through email in early January. The modified process has been working as intended, but it's less than optimal. The proposed ordinance, which I will discuss later, will provide operational relief to the city and enable DCR to go back to invoicing and processing policies previously in place. If the ordinance is adopted by the end of February, I anticipate that the backlog of applicants and licensees that have waited more than 2 weeks for a payment appointment will be fully eliminated by the end of May. These are not excuses, but unfortunately, these are the realities that we're facing. Based on some of the public comments, I think that there may be a disconnect in communication between the department and the applicant or licensee. So I do want to let folks know that I will commit to sending new email communications to our various groups of applicants by the end of next week. I encourage all of our applicants and licensees to check their spam folders. Typically, when DCR provides updates to large groups of applicants and licensees, we send it through our system in a bulk batch, which means that your email processing system may recognize it as a spam communication and it may not be in your inbox. Please check your spam folder, and if you see communications from DCR licensing, please mark those messages as secure so they show up in your inbox. Phase 2 applicants without temporary approval were sent an email letting them know how they can request their initial inspection. A lot of phase 2 applicants have pending modification requests, which are most likely delaying the processing of their phase 2 applications. A number of phase 3 applicants have not submitted any of their temporary approval documents. Until DCR has received the temporary approval documents, DCR is unable to process the phase 3 retail round 1 application. As of this morning, DCR only has 51 of the 200 applications that have at least one of the temporary approval documents that have been updated for us to review. Applicants have been reaching out to the businesses that have begun to submit documents and letting them know if we need additional documentation and if they have not submitted all of the required forms. I'm happy to report that 30 of the 51 businesses that have started to submit documents have received their notice of local compliance underway, which enables them to submit their application for a state provisional license. Additionally, we've noticed that a lot of phase 3 retail round 1 applicants and applicants going through the pre-application process are not responding to analyst requests for additional documents or information. If the documents and information are not submitted to DCR, we are unable to process your request. Common issues we've been finding are ownership attestation forms are not being submitted for all of the owners. Documents are either incomplete or unsigned. Operating agreements have not been updated to reflect the required language as provided by the ordinance. The ordinance requires all social equity applicants to include language in their operating agreements that reads, to the extent that any provision of this agreement or part thereof is or may be construed to be inconsistent with or in violation of the equity share requirements set forth in the Los Angeles Municipal Code section 104.20, such provisions shall be ineffective, unenforceable, null, and void. If the operating agreements do not reflect this language, those documents are incomplete and that application will not be moved forward, and the applicant will not be able to get a notice of local compliance underway, which means that they'll be unable to get their state provisional license, which will prevent them from getting their temporary approval license from the department. For phase 3 retail round 1 businesses that have submitted at least one of the documents, I personally audited DCR's email communications to verify that analysts had sent at least one email to the applicant within the past 30 days. This audit was completed in January, and I went back to look for communications going back to December 15th. For the accounts where I noticed that a communication had not been sent within 30 days, analysts were instructed to send a communication providing an update on the application and what DCR needed in order to continue processing the application. I personally audited the communications last week to ensure that anybody who had not received one of those communications received a communication. If you did not receive a communication from the department, most likely the department is unable to process your application because we do not have the required documents. There are several phase 3 applicants that are moving through the pre-application process. As I previously mentioned, we had 375 pre-applications submitted. I'm happy to report that 98 of those pre-applications have been moved forward to a status of eligible for processing, which means those applicants are able to start submitting their temporary approval documents. And the last thing I wanted to provide an update to the commission on was the DCR licensing email count has been maintained at under 10 unread emails throughout 2021. Every morning staff go in, they review the emails and they respond to the emails. I meet with staff twice a week to go through emails that are more complex and they're unable to answer. So I do want to say that the department has done an excellent job in being responsive to email communications and at least getting the information out that they can get out. There are a significant number of communications that the department receives that are not associated with contacts on the record. DCR does not provide application-related information to individuals that are not on a contact record. So if you have a consultant or a law firm or somebody else trying to interact with the department as it relates to your application and they are not a contact on your record, we are not going to respond to them. And if that is causing delays in you receiving information, please send an email yourself and reach out to your applicant because that will expedite us in providing you with the requested information. Some of the issues that we've seen with the emails is, as I mentioned, the emails are not being received by a contact on the record. Emails are asking for business advice. DCR does not provide business advice to applicants or licensees, and emails are asking for legal advice. DCR does not provide legal advice to applicants or licensees. If you need legal advice, we recommend finding legal representation that can speak to your specific business needs. Next slide, please. Next slide. As I mentioned, DCR is continuing to implement strategies for proactive and regular communications with applicants and licensees. DCR's preferred method of communication is through our DCR licensing at lacity.org account. applicants and licensees should email related questions to this account and reference their application number in the subject line. If we don't have your application number, it makes it very difficult for us to identify what an appropriate response would be to your email inquiry. Oftentimes, folks are sending emails from accounts that are not linked to their DCR licensing portal record, or the name on the account does not match the name on the DCR licensing portal contact sheet. These types of issues make it almost impossible for us to provide information unless a record is provided. General questions like, what is the status of my application, when we can't actually identify what your record number is, will result in us asking for additional information and delay you getting the information that you need. Every applicant and licensee has an assigned analyst. Applicants and licensees should direct application-specific questions to their analyst. Analysts send an introductory email to applicants after an initial application review is completed. 3 DCR staff members monitor the main phone lines during regular business hours, which is 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to ensure that members of the licensee, if these 3 staff members are unavailable, the calls are forwarded to the remaining 6 members of our licensing team. So as folks are responding to phone calls and emails, it does take them away from processing applications. DCR does not currently have the capacity to do all 3 at the same time. And I do want to let everybody know that staff are diligently working overtime, both in the evenings and over the weekends, to process applications as expeditiously as possible. Currently, staff are returning missed calls and voicemail messages within 72 hours to all individuals who leave appropriate contact information. Another important thing is, if you are leaving a voicemail message, to clearly provide your callback number as well as your name and any applicable information associated with the call. It makes it easier for our team to identify the appropriate person to respond to your call. Next slide, please. Over the next several slides, I'm just going to provide a general overview of the application process. Next slide. DCR is currently accepting applications for testing laboratories, non-volatile manufacturing, distribution, and distribution transport only licenses from all prospective commercial cannabis businesses. Additionally, DCR is accepting applications from verified social equity applicants for non-storefront retail delivery licenses. Next slide, please. I'm just going to provide a brief update on some of our processing milestones. A request for a finding of public convenience or necessity may take up to 130 days from the date an invoice is issued. When an invoice is issued, the applicant has 10 days to pay the application fee. DCR has 30 days to request the PCN request and transmit it to the City Council for further processing, and the City Council has 90 days to consider the PCN request. In total, it could take up to 130 days from the date the invoice is issued for an applicant to get a response related to a public convenience or necessity request. For pre-application reviews, the processing time is currently up to 120 days from the date an invoice is issued. To date, 98 of the 375 pre-applications have been updated to eligible for processing, and those applicants are eligible to move into the temporary approval application process. Once the applicant is moved into the temporary approval application process, the processing time will vary based on the applicant. An applicant that does not need to submit any corrections, passes an initial inspection the first time, passes an LAFD, fire life safety inspection the first time, and moves through the state provisional licensing process quickly, may be eligible to receive a temporary approval license in 120 to 180 days. Most applicants are taking more than 180 days to move through the temporary approval process. Modification request, the processing time varies based on the request. Simple requests like adding non-owner contacts are processed expeditiously. Processing times for relocations, legal business name changes, or anything that is going to require the applicant to submit additional information and documents that need to be re-reviewed by the department, that will also have to be approved by the state and have the state update the appropriate licensing records, will take months in order to fully process. Once the modification request is in our queue, we are processing the modification in parallel with the underlying application. And, to the extent that certain documents are not being updated, DCR is able to move the temporary approval applications forward. However, if there's a change in the legal business name, that's going to preclude the department from issuing a notice of local compliance underway because those are entity specific. If there's a relocation, that's going to preclude the department from issuing a notice of local compliance underway because those are business premises specific. And those delays will prevent the applicant from moving forward through the state's provisional licensure process, which will ultimately delay their ability to get a temporary approval from the department. Businesses that have already submitted a modification request through the DCR licensing portal are eligible to request a payment appointment with the Office of Finance. Businesses must schedule a payment appointment before DCR issues them an invoice. This information was covered in the communication that was sent to all applicants and licensees on January 4th of this year. Only businesses that have paid the initial modification review fee will receive feedback from the department regarding their modification request. So if you have not paid your modification review fee and you're wondering why the department has not responded to you, that's the reason why. Is until the fee is paid, the modification request is not formally before the department and the department's not actively processing it. DCR sent emails to the applicants that are eligible to submit and pay their public convenience or necessity fees earlier this week. Any PCN eligible applicant that did receive the email is eligible to request a payment appointment. Two PCN applicants have submitted fees to date. We anticipate that over the next several weeks, additional PCN applicants will submit the filing fee for their requests. Next slide, please. I will briefly just go over the pre-application workflow. Generally, there's 3 steps to DCR's application process from initial application submission through the issuance of temporary approval. The first step is for an applicant to complete the pre-application review process. The second step is to complete the temporary approval process. And then the third step is for DCR to issue a temporary approval to engage in a commercial cannabis activity to the applicant entity. Pre-applications are formally before the department after a pre-application has been submitted through the DCR licensing portal and applicable fees have been paid. Once the fees are paid, we do an initial review for land use compliance. If the location does not comply, we notify the applicant. If the application does comply, we will ask for additional information, and then ultimately the application will be deemed eligible for processing and move into the temporary approval workflow. The key steps for the pre-application review process are fees are paid, the initial land use review is completed, the status of the record is updated to eligible for processing, and then once the pre-application is updated to eligible for processing, the applicant may begin uploading the documents required for the temporary approval application process. Next slide, please. The second major step toward temporary approval is going through the temporary approval workflow. Once an applicant has successfully gone through the pre-application review phase, they're required to submit all of the temporary approval documents. Once all of the temporary approval documents have been submitted, the applicant is eligible to request a payment appointment with the Office of Finance, and upon successfully getting an appointment, DCR will issue an invoice. Once the invoice is paid, the temporary approval application is formally before the department and the assigned analyst begins their review for completeness. Once all of the documents have been verified to be submitted, we've verified that the documents are consistent with one another and the information submitted through the DCR licensing portal, the applicant is eligible to get their notice of local compliance underway, which enables them to submit an application to the state for either a provisional license or for an annual license. While the applicant is moving through the state's application process, their application is moving through the local application process in parallel. The applicant is eligible to request an initial inspection from DCR. Once that initial inspection has been completed, they're eligible to request a fire life safety inspection from the fire department. The department is reviewing their equity share documents for compliance. And once, the equity share documents have been reviewed and deemed compliant, the DCR and LEFD inspections have been passed. The applicant has submitted copies of their state provisional or annual licenses, and the applicant has provided any additional documents necessary, such as indemnification agreements. They're eligible to receive their temporary approval. Once they receive their temporary approval, they have a license from the department and they vested at their business premises location. Next slide, please. I do just want to remind all of our applicants that business premises location vesting does not occur until a license is issued. Pursuant to Municipal Code Section 105, an applicant does not vest at its proposed business premises location until both a state license and a city license are issued. Under LEMC Section 10502, once a commercial cannabis business receives licenses from the state and the city for its proposed location and otherwise meets all other restrictions and requirements, it is not in violation of the city's distancing and sensitive use restrictions. DCR is unable to issue a license, including a temporary approval, if a sensitive use is created prior to the issuance of a license. Next slide, please. As I previously mentioned, the department has implemented temporary invoice procedures. Next slide, please. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Office of Finance has experienced reduced capacity and office closures. As such, DCR changed its invoice policy to ensure that applicants have sufficient time to pay. This policy will be in place only while the Office of Finance has experienced capacity issues due to the pandemic, has related capacity reductions, or until the City Council approves a ordinance which is currently pending before it, which I will discuss in more detail later. On January 4th, 2021, DCR issued advice to all applicants and licensees, letting them know of this modified invoicing process. DCR will only issue an invoice after a payment appointment has been scheduled and confirmed with the Office of Finance. Therefore, applicants and licensees must schedule a payment appointment with the Office of Finance in advance of receiving an invoice. After DCR has been informed of the appointment, DCR will issue an invoice. DCR currently has a methodology of getting information from the Office of Finance, whereby we're notified when appointments are scheduled. DCR staff generate an invoice within 1 day of the payment appointment. If a payment appointment is scheduled less than 48 hours before, within 48 hours, DCR is sending out invoices the morning of. I do want to let applicants and licensees know that as long as we have this temporary invoice procedure in place, we have created a Dropbox with the Office of Finance, whereby we're providing them a copy of all of the invoices that were issued, so that if you don't get the invoice in time for your appointment, or you're unable to prevent the invoice, they do have access to those invoices, and they are able to prevent them or print them to allow for your payment to be processed when you show up for your appointment. After an applicant submits their application or request, they're able to request a payment appointment. On a weekly basis, DCR is providing finance with a list of specific applications or requests that are eligible to schedule a payment appointment. DCR then emails the applicant and licensee to inform them that they must request a payment appointment with finance. Finance confirms a payment appointment has been scheduled with both the applicant and DCR. DCR issues an invoice to the applicant licensee. DCR does provide a courtesy copy of the invoice to finance, just in case the applicant or licensee does not take one with them to their appointment. The invoice due date will always fall on or after the scheduled appointment date. And then the applicant licensee needs to show up to their appointment and pay the invoice. DCR modified this process to reduce the likelihood of an application being deemed abandoned. But if for some reason an invoice is still not paid within the 10-day time frame, for instance, the applicant doesn't show up to their payment appointment, an application will be deemed abandoned and the applicant will have to submit a new request. Please note that all applicants are required to request an appointment before finance will allow you to go and do a transaction at the City Hall office. Due to public safety protocols, all transactions must be done by appointment only, and they're scheduled throughout the day. Walk-in appointments are not allowed at the office. Next slide, please. Now I'll briefly discuss the City Council motion regarding a fee extension, which is Council File 20-1586. On December 9th, a motion was introduced to Council that would allow for the late payment of 2020 and 2021 renewal fees. This extension would sunset after the COVID-19 virus pandemic was lifted. A lot of what was included in the motion was integral to the current operations, and DCR submitted a report asking for a few friendly modifications. The motion and the DCR report were referred to Plum Committee, and on January 21st, 2021, the motion as amended was passed and sent to the full council where it was considered and approved on Wednesday, January 27th. Yesterday, the Office of the City Attorney transmitted a draft ordinance for City Council consideration. If adopted, the municipal code will be updated to extend the 10-day payment deadlines to 30 days, add alternative payment methods such as payment by mail, allow the submission of late renewal applications and/or late renewal fee payments subject to the expedited services fees set forth in Municipal Code Section 10419, and establish a one-time extension for the late submission of 2020 and/or 2021 renewal applications, as well as the late payment of 2020 and/or 2021 renewal fees due to the COVID-19 pandemic. DCR will only have the authority to implement the above changes if the draft ordinance is adopted by the mayor and council. DCR will provide additional information to applicants if and when the proposed ordinance is adopted into law. Next slide, please. Next slide. I do want to provide an important update related to Phase 2 applications that have not received temporary approval. Phase 2 applicants must receive temporary approval by September 30th, 2021. Applications that have not met this processing milestone will be deemed abandoned. This date will have provided Phase 2 applicants a full 3 years to meet the processing milestone. If any Phase 2 applications are deemed abandoned because they do not reach temporary approval, the applicant may reapply subject to the payment of application fees for any of the activities that they would otherwise be eligible to apply for and are currently available. Next slide, please. The second important set of milestones are related to Phase 2 applicants that have outstanding local authorization documents. Only Phase 2 applicants that passed a pre-licensing inspection by July 3rd of 2020 have local authorization letters. Applicants that fail to submit proof of an active state application or state license by February 28th will lose their local authorization provided under LAMC Section 10408A. Phase 2 applicants who fail to submit proof of an active state license for the applicable commercial cannabis activities by May 31st, 2021 will also lose their local authorization provided under LAMC Section 10408A. And lastly, phase 2 applicants who fail to receive temporary approval by June 30th, 2021 will lose their local authorization provided under LAMC section 1048A. Applicants with site control and a complete temporary approval application may request a notice of local compliance underway if they lose their local authorization. Next slide, please. Next, I'll provide a brief update on phase 3 retail round 1. As it states on the slide, as of last week, 45 businesses had uploaded one or more of their temporary approval documents. That number has increased to 51 as of today. 30 of those businesses have uploaded the minimum number of completed temporary approval documents and are eligible for a status of local compliance underway. Letters will be issued. Letters began being issued on January 26th of 2021, and letters will continue to be issued on a rolling basis as applicants meet the processing milestone necessary to get their notice of local compliance underway. 17 of those 30 businesses have scheduled an initial inspection with DCR, and 7 of the 17 have passed their initial DCR inspection and are eligible to request their LEFD fire life safety inspection. Next slide, please. I will now share some information regarding phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing application processing. Next slide, please. On October 20th, 2020, DCR began accepting applications for phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing applications. To date, DCR has received 375 pre-application requests for these license types. 98 of those pre-applications have been processed to a status of eligible for processing. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to briefly talk about the public convenience or necessity requests that are still that are eligible to move forward for council consideration. Next slide. Approximately 50 businesses that previously registered an intent to file a PCN request and upload the required PCN form by December 18th, 2020 were notified of their eligibility to request a payment appointment with the Office of Finance to remit the PCN filing fee. The first set of PCN requests began to be paid earlier this week. Once the fees have been paid, DCR has 30 days to review the PCN forms, communicate with the prospective PCN applicant, and transmit the request to City Council if it meets the requirements. Once the file has been transmitted to the City Clerk for council consideration, Council will have 90 days to consider the request. I anticipate that the first set of PCN requests will be transmitted to the City Clerk for council consideration in early March. If the City Council does not make the required PCN finding within 90 days, the PCN request will be denied as a matter of law. Requests for findings of public convenience or necessity are site-specific, which means each request is tied only to the one application listed on the request. The PCN standards adopted by the City Council, which are available on DCR's website, pertain to the proposed business premises location in the PCN request and cannot be satisfied by providing evidence of the same or similar criteria at a different location. Therefore, under Municipal Code Section 104.03E1, Roman numeral 3.1, an applicant subject to the PCN process that does not yet have a license must submit a new PCN request if they wish to move to a new business premises location. For applicants that are not currently in our PCN processing, the PCN process may reopen later this year, but DCR does not have any plans to reopen the process before June 30th of 2021. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to give a brief update on the notice of local compliance underway. Next slide, please. Local compliance underway is a term of art used by the state licensing agencies. It means that a local jurisdiction is working with the applicant and the applicant may begin the state licensure process. A notice of local compliance underway allows the applicant to apply for a provisional or annual license with the state while DCR completes its review of their application. However, it does not in any way guarantee that temporary approval will be issued, A DCR licensing record status of local compliance underway does not create, confer, or convey any vested or non-conforming right to engage in commercial activity in the city of Los Angeles. It may not be sold, assigned, or otherwise transferred to another person or entity. DCR has issued 30 notices of local compliance underway to phase 3 retail round 1 social equity applicants who have submitted the minimum required documents for the temporary approval application process. A notice of local compliance underway is valid for 90 days from the date issued. DCR may reissue another notice of local compliance underway subject to an additional land use review and payment of applicable fees. For the last time today, I'm just going to re-emphasize that an applicant does not vest at its proposed business premises location until both a state license and a city license are issued, respectively, for that business premises location. DCR will not be able to issue a temporary approval license to any business if a sensitive use is created prior to the license issuance. That is why these notices of local compliance underway are only valid for 90 days, and they have to be re-requested after the 90th day, because DCR has to re-review the proposed business premises location to determine if it's still compliant. If DCR determines that there is a sensitive use, the applicant will be required to relocate, subject to the provisions under LAMC section 10403 for relocations. If they're unable to relocate, the application will unfortunately have to be denied, but the applicant would be able to reapply at a later date for any of the applications that are currently open and available based on their either general licensing or social equity status. This concludes my presentation. I will now hand it back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Jason. Next slide. I'll now share information about the anticipated timeline for implementing social equity program eligibility verification, specifically for phase 3 retail round 2. Next slide. Just for context, in order to participate in social equity programming, which includes application processing and a number of other programming components, individuals must first be verified to meet certain criteria established under our municipal code. Based on recent amendments or amendments made to the code back in the summer of 2020, there are now 3 ways that folks could participate for some form of social equity programming. Folks may either participate based on the original criteria, which is based on the original social equity analysis, which was conducted in 2017. As a reminder, the original eligibility criteria made reference to different tiers, tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 applicants. Just as a quick note, tier 3 applicants are no longer considered social equity applicants, but are still required to meet their obligations as tier 3 requirements. And at a future commission meeting, we'll be talking about the implementation of those tier 3 requirements. So if you are a phase 2 applicant who qualified based on your status as a tier 3 applicant, please be on the lookout for additional information, because your obligations under that program will soon be come due. But again, folks could qualify based on the original criteria, and now based on the changes to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance, there are 2 new ways that folks can qualify to participate in the program. There was an expanded analysis that was conducted, and based on this expanded analysis, the criteria has changed. The expanded criteria now exists, whereby an individual would be able to participate in the social equity program so long as they met any 2 of 3 criteria. Those 3 criteria being having a California cannabis arrest or conviction, meeting a status of low income, or living in a disproportionately impacted area for a period of 10 years. I do want to remind folks that the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance did amend the definition of low income, particularly to try and capture information related to assets. And the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance also have amended what qualifies as a disproportionately impacted area. Of note, disproportionately impacted areas are now being defined as police reporting districts rather than zip codes, which is how the original eligibility criteria defined a disproportionately impacted area. However, specifically to participate in phase 3 retail round 2, it's not that folks have to meet any 2 of 3 criteria. They specifically have to have, and I'm sorry, can we go back to the last slide, please? They specifically have to have a cannabis arrest or conviction, and then either meet the definition of low income, or meet the definition of living or residing in a disproportionately impacted area for a period of 10 years. When we began the eligibility verification process in 2019, we received over 2,000 requests for folks to be verified, and ultimately were able to verify close to 1,600 applicants. We can go to the next slide. So the original, the application period for the original criteria has closed. I know that we've received a number of communications from members of the public asking how can they get verified based on the eligibility criteria. They may have submitted an application before and want to complete that application, or they may have never applied during the window and are now seeking to be verified based on the original criteria. The ordinance does not permit anyone else to get verified based on the original criteria. And so the application period for the original criteria is closed. If you were one of the 1,600 individuals to have previously been verified, then you can continue to participate in social equity programming based on this criteria. But if you did not complete that process or did not start that process, if you aren't one of these 1,600, approximately 1,600 individuals who were verified based on that criteria, there is no new method or mechanism to get verified based on that criteria. And I did want to clarify that because I have personally seen a number of communications come in from different individuals requesting how they can get verified based on the original criteria. But the expanded criteria, which again is meeting any 2 of the 3 criteria, or the phase 3 retail round 2 criteria, we will be opening up eligibility verification windows to allow those processes to begin. At the end of last year, we had tentatively planned on starting those eligibility verification periods, but considering all of the applications and our caseload relative to PCN requests, phase 3 retail round 1 folks, and then phase 3 folks who are applying for delivery, non-volatile manufacturing, testing, and distribution, we really find it prudent and critical before we open up new rounds of eligibility verification to prioritize our existing applicants and to try and move as many of our existing applicants into the licensing process before we begin beginning eligibility verification for new individuals. That being said, we do not currently anticipate beginning eligibility verification either based on the expanded criteria or specifically for phase 3 retail round 2 any sooner than the second quarter of 2021. We will continue to provide updates to the public as we continue to progress through our current caseload, and we will also give advance notice of when these eligibility verification processes will start. But I'd like to iterate today that folks should not anticipate eligibility verification, individuals being verified based on either the expanded criteria or the specific criteria for phase 3 retail round 2 in the first quarter of 2021. Next slide. Just to share a little bit of information about the criteria for phase 3 retail round 2 again, a cannabis arrest or conviction is required. So if you do not have a California cannabis arrest or conviction, you will not be able to be verified to participate in phase 3 retail round 2. And even if you have a California cannabis arrest or conviction, you will still have to meet one of the following criteria, either being low income or having resided in a disproportionately impacted area, again, those new police reporting districts, for a period of 10 years. The department is currently working on developing a number of resources to assist folks through the process. Once it becomes available, we will make these resources available in advance of the process starting. But these resources will include an information and procedure bulletin detailing the eligibility criteria, the different documents that the department will accept in order to qualify and verify folks as meeting these criteria. We are also putting together a tool that will allow folks to determine if they qualify and could become verified based on the new criteria. And we will also be putting together a mapping tool for the public so that individuals could, one, see on a map where those disproportionately impacted areas, those police reporting districts are located. And also the mapping tool will allow someone to type in their address and identify whether or not the address that they resided in is a disproportionately impacted area. Again, it's the area that they resided in, not the area that the applicant may intend to apply to locate a business that is going to be material from us determining that they qualify for phase 3 retail round 2. Again, all of these materials will be made available in advance of us beginning the eligibility verification process, but that eligibility verification process will not happen in Q1 of 2021. And that is in part to ensure that we are prioritizing moving forward with our existing applicants and getting those applicants licensed as soon as possible. Next slide. Just a last bit of information about how the process will work moving forward in phase 3 retail round 2. Essentially, there are 3 ways for folks to participate in retail opportunity in the city at this point. The first way is if you are one of the phase 3 retail round 1 applicants, one of the 200 applicants who have been determined eligible for further processing, you have a pathway towards a retail opportunity. Phase 3 retail round 2 is specifically to identify which applicants are going to be eligible to apply for licenses, for retail licenses in areas that have not reached undue concentration. And so the department is currently reconciling its data to make sure that we have and can share with the public what the totals are in each of the community plan areas so that the public is aware of which areas have reached undue concentration and which areas have not reached undue concentration. But round 2 is essentially going to be specifically for folks to apply in those areas who have not reached undue concentration. If folks are seeking to apply for an area that has reached undue concentration, the method that folks will need to follow to progress in that process is the public convenience or necessity process. And Jason shared information about that process previously in this presentation. So 3 pathways towards licensure for retail. Phase 3 retail round 1, phase 3 retail round 2, or the PCN process. Those are the 3 pathways towards retail licensure that exist right now in the city. So if you are interested in participating in phase 3 retail round 2, there are a few steps that applicants will need to follow. We'll continue to share more information and resources about this as we get closer to the launch. But the first step will be for folks to get verified based on the new criteria. Again, we will be sharing an information and procedure bulletin so that folks understand what the instructions is and process. It's going to be important, and I'm sure we'll hold a number of workshops and put together a video tutorial for the public to try and streamline this process. But the ordinance specifies that the eligibility verification window for phase 3 retail round 2 will only last for 60 days. And so it's going to be important for members of the public to be prepared to submit those applications when the process begins so that we can timely review those applications and do our best to share information with folks in case they don't get us all the information that we need the first time to make sure that we can get that information within the 60-day period. So once we once we were to determine a group of and a pool of applicants who were verified to participate, applicants will need to apply to participate in the lottery. It's going to be a very, we're intending it to be a very simple application process. There aren't any specified requirements in the code. So we just essentially need folks to confirm that, yes, I'm verified, but I also want to participate in the lottery. And then DCR would administer phase 3 retail round 2 via application lottery. Because there's 60 days required just for the eligibility verification process, folks should not anticipate that the lottery would take place any sooner than Q3 of 2021. And then individuals who are selected via the lottery, the ordinance would allow individuals a year. And I imagine, based on the undue concentration levels, we'll see around approximately 125 social equity applicants that we'll be able to identify via lottery. And these individuals will be afforded a year to come back to the department with a compliant property in any community plan area that has not reached undue concentration. I'm really hopeful that this process will not capture or include many of the frustrations that folks have experienced because property was required in advance. We have pushed very hard to try and ensure we could have a process that didn't require property up front, even for round 1. But I'm happy to articulate that that process will not be required in phase 3 retail round 2. So we will be able to determine applicants eligible, and then those applicants will be given a period of time, a year, to come back to the department with a property and a complete application. Next slide. All right, and that concludes today's Executive Director's report. I appreciate members of the public for listening in and for our commissioners today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Packer. I want to thank you and the staff for preparing this comprehensive report. At this time, I want to open up the floor to Commissioner deliberations. Any questions, comments, or discussion regarding the presentation?
I have a couple of questions.
Commissioner Naro, go ahead.
Yes, my first question is during the presentation, I'm trying to keep track because it's such a long. But thank you first for the presentations. I learned so much from these presentations, and every meeting I get caught up to speed. But I love the process of the details of your presentation. So thank you. I have a question. So it seems like you're getting correspondence or requests that's in the area of legal advice or business advice. And I know you're also working on the this pro bono project with the LA County Bar Association. Would that project be a good place to send folks to for they're seeking something that may be related to legal advice? And then also related to that, is there somewhere we can send folks for if they need something that's related to like some kind of business consultant advice? Because my concern always is about this industry is that it seems that folks that have the resources to get legal and business advice and representation do have an advantage over those who want to get into this industry but don't have those kind of resources. So that's my first question.
Thank you, Commissioner Naro. I appreciate the question. I think you've hit the nail on the head. We had heard from many applicants their interest in having access to legal advice, their need for legal advice, and that is exactly why we structured and developed this partnership with the Los Angeles County Bar Association to make pro bono free legal services available to applicants. The way that we structured this program, at least to begin, was to make these services exclusively available to the 200 phase 3 retail round 1 applicants, because we recognize that LACBA is still in the process of recruiting attorneys, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough attorneys to serve the pool of applicants that we have before us. But each of those 200 applicants are more than welcome to sign up for pro bono legal services. I think Dr. Brown mentioned earlier in the presentation that just a few weeks ago, we sent a reminder to all 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants to remind them that this service was available. Essentially, what we need them to do is to complete a survey just so we can capture their information, and we essentially also ask them for an authorization form to authorize that we share their information with the attorneys at LACBA, so that LACBA can reach out to those individuals and to begin to provide those services. Surprisingly, there has been relatively low program enrollment thus far. And again, the intention, we had heard a lot from applicants about the concern, particularly from these 200, this group of 200, concerns about predatory practices, concerns about what they were seeing in their operating agreements. And for those folks who expressed those concerns, this service is specifically for you. So we would love to see program enrollment increase, but it is relatively low. At this point, we will continue to send reminders on a monthly basis so that folks know that these services exist. But unfortunately, Commissioner Nara, we've seen relatively low participation to date, and folks letting us know that they're interested, particularly in these legal services. So I'll do a plug one more time. If you are a Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicant, or if you are one of the 200 applicants who are eligible for further processing, and you need or are seeking legal assistance, please check your email. In that email, we'll have instructions on how you can complete the survey and authorization form so that you can get connected to an attorney to assist you in the process. Commissioner Norrell, in terms of business advice, DCR in and of itself isn't in the business of giving business advice, but Dr. Brown and her team have been working over the last several months to contract with third-party vendors who will be providing business licensing and compliance assistance. I think Dr. Brown mentioned that this month we will be issuing notices to proceed to essentially authorize those vendors to begin to build curriculum, and we'll be reaching out to applicants to get a sense of what type of assistance, what specific topics they'd like to be built into the curriculum. The notices to proceed are essentially us authorizing them to begin the curriculum development process. So I still imagine that it'll be 8 weeks at least before that curriculum is available to the public. But in the interim, we will be reaching out and surveying applicants to get a sense of what information they're seeking. But these particular services seek to directly address those issues, legal and business advice.
Thank you. My second question is real quickly on the public comments. I forgot her name, but an assistant deputy city attorney from West Hollywood mentioned an issue that I think was mentioned previously in a prior meeting. But is there what's your response? Like, is there a next step with that issue? Because it seems to be concern in West Hollywood about an ongoing issue there.
So the commission is more than free to work with our attorneys to put something on the agenda, but because that is not an agendized item, I'm unable to comment.
Okay. I guess this is my question for the president and the chair of the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Norrell.
Yeah, Ms. Packer, I just want to add a comment to the LACBA pro bono services. I too am surprised that we've had relatively low rates of participation. So for those social equity applicant or license holders that are listening in and watching, I fully encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. It is pro bono. You know, there are some complexities where I think it would be helpful to have legal counsel engaged and to assist you as you're going through this process. And as far as this commission and the DCR is concerned, I would encourage all of us to plug this program wherever possible to ensure that at least folks you can make an informed decision, at least if they know about the program, and if they decide not to participate, that's fine too. But I just want to make sure that those that potentially would be interested have that information for them. And I would imagine it's also going to be on a first come, first served basis. right? So those that get in earlier will be ensured service. If you come in late and we're at capacity, you may not receive the service because there is a capacity there. So folks, keep that in mind. And if you have any interest, please definitely participate in this program.
Yeah, thank you, President On. The only thing I want to iterate is that part of the reason why we wanted to make these services available right now is because we heard a lot from equity applicants that they needed help, particularly in making sure that what was in their operating agreements was consistent with the city's equity share requirements. And this is one of those requirements that applicants have to comply with before they receive temporary approval. So if you are one of those social equity applicants who had concerns about documents that you have may have been required by other folks to sign, or operating agreements, it would be in your best interest to reach out and try and seek those legal services now, as opposed to waiting a few weeks from now when the department will contact you and say, oh, we've looked at these equity share documents and they're not in compliance. The intention was to try and align the need with the process and the service. And so I would just, again, one more time, plug folks and say, this particular service was created for you. As President On said, even if you think that everything is fine, I don't think that there's any harm in sitting down with an attorney and getting a second opinion or a third opinion. And so I again just want to encourage folks to use this utilize this service that has been made available to you.
Thank you. Commissioner Villa, I'm just gonna make our rounds. Commissioner Villa, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner Mercado.
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we'll go to Vice President Mason.
Hi, thank you, President On. I want to thank Assistant Director Colleen for the staffing info. I got the impression, though, that people are multitasking, and that's factoring into response times on returning telephone calls. And one of the public comments really focused on the quality of information that was being communicated when they are able to speak to people, and just that there's a lack of useful information. And so I'm wondering what additional staffing is needed by the department so that people are really dedicated to the phone lines instead of being on the phones, processing applications over here, over there. Where are we with, what additional staffing is needed? And I know the city is in a quandary because of the pandemic and the budgeting and everything else. And so it's going to be kind of hard, but I'm still just curious as to what's needed in that regard.
So Jason, if you want to provide additional context, feel free to take the lead. But part of what I'd like to articulate to the commissioners and also to the public is that the department is still without a public information director. And this is a critical position that we recognize where we need to fill as soon as possible. We have thousands of stakeholders that we engage with, not just our applicants and licensees, but council members, this commission, members of the community, members of other communities who are reaching out. And I think that this is a critical position that has been missing from the beginning. We have one dedicated public relations specialist who does excellent work on behalf of the department. But the reality is that we are missing critical communications staff. We're also missing a few other positions in the department, which are making everyone have to multitask. So it's not working as efficiently as we'd like. Some of those positions include special investigators who I think would be relevant to address some of the community complaints that we're hearing. And as Jason mentioned today, we actually have one of our staff members who's been with us from the beginning, who just recently accepted a job and is relocating to Arizona. And because of the city's hiring freeze, we're losing capacity that we may not be able to replace. And so we're going to continue to try and be as transparent as possible about what our staffing capacity and related issues are. But the fiscal crisis that the city is going through right now has put our capacity in jeopardy. And again, we continue to make position and articulate that we are a revenue generating department. When we operate efficiently, it brings revenue into the city that not only supports the economic development of our social equity applicants, which is critical, but also supports other city services. So we appreciate the public support and this commission support as we, navigate through what will be a very different budget cycle this year. But I think it's going to be increasingly important for city leadership to understand the need for the department to operate at maximum efficiency. Jason, I don't know if there's anything specific that you want to add, but feel free.
Just to build on what the director was saying, unfortunately, the department has a 30% vacancy rate at this time. So as she mentioned, our public information director, we have a vacant public relations specialist. Dr. Brown has supervisory as well as line staff vacancies on her team. And then we have over a 25% vacancy rate on the licensing side. And folks are pulled in multiple directions to try to provide the best service possible to our applicants and licensees and prospective applicants. For kind of how the licensing team is utilized, we get a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails where folks are asking hypothetical situations that aren't necessarily in our application queue. And our team does the best job that they can to provide information and point them to resources on the website. But, as the social equity program is built out, as folks take advantage of the LACPO resources and other resources that the city is going to be providing through the business licensing and compliance programs, hopefully that frees up capacity for the licensing team to focus on the core licensing duties and respond to the applicants and licensees that they were responsible for shepherding through our process. There was a time if we did pull everybody off of our pending applications and licenses and had them ignore the phones and emails, our staff that are primarily responsible for them, would be unable to meet that workload demand. And we're just not in a position to backfill it. And then of course, the alternative would be to refer the frontline correspondence with stakeholders to ITA's 311 information system. And of course, those folks are not subject matter experts on the city's cannabis policies or DCS policies. So that would probably result in frustration from stakeholders where they're getting somebody who's going to have to then pass the buck back to DCR to respond to, and they're not going to get the information necessary. But I do anticipate that as we progress through 2021, there's going to be increases in our capacity. Hopefully within the next 2 months, 2 critical positions will get filled. And as we kind of build capacity and better collateral materials for our business development side and social equity side, that will provide resources to folks that will hopefully reduce incoming calls and emails that take up licensing staff capacity, which gives them the ability to refocus those capacity hours on processing applications and doing hearings and everything else. Right now, I really want to thank the entire DCR licensing team. In addition to folks on the licensing team, folks in other units of the department have really stepped up. And kind of as we, launch various programs throughout this year, they're going to be cross-trained on a lot of what the licensing team does so that they can work on an overtime basis to build additional capacity, especially as we ramp up to do the next round of verifications, moving applications through the phase 3 round 1 process, the pre-application review process. We're utilizing every resource that we have to try to provide a better experience for all of our stakeholders, but specifically our applicants and our licensees.
Thank you, Mr. Killeen. Vice President Mason, do you have anything else?
No, thank you, Assistant Director Killeen. That was it for me.
Great. So This is President On. I just want to just continue that discussion regarding specifically Mr. Clean's part of the presentation. I thought that was extremely instrumental, given a lot of the comments and feedback that we received from the general public with the frustration with respect to the delays and with the described lack of responsiveness. And so I think hearing from you, Mr. Colleen, as far as the internal processes that we have in place, it gives us a lot of visibility into kind of what you all are doing and what we're up against. And so I think that's very helpful. I think you said it best. I mean, these explanations are not excuses, but they are the realities with what this department is facing. I said from day one, I've been preaching patience because, you know, there are going to be these growing pains, and you add on to that certain resource limitations and constraints, and it's extremely difficult. But having said that, you know, we are in the customer service business. We have to make sure that we are responsive to our customers, who are the applicants and other stakeholders in the industry. But we have gotten a lot better. I can see the progress internally that we're making. But the most important thing is that we give, I think, these applicants predictability. So even if it's bad news and if it looks like we are going to get unduly delayed, let's make sure that we get the word out so that folks can start planning for these delays, because there are business and fiscal impacts, especially for those folks in phase 3 round 1 that already have leases that they've already committed to and that they're already expending money on. So let's just make sure that we continue to improve our communications at every step of the way. And it's going to be a work in progress. So I just want to, again, I want to just let everyone know that's listening in. I empathize with the frustrations that we're hearing, but I've got to preach patience because there are certain realities that this department is facing, and they are definitely doing the best that they can. Mr. Clean, another thing I want to talk to you about is you mentioned that we get a lot of communications from folks that are not authorized. They're not listed on the application. Are we responding and making sure that they understand that they need to get authorization and explaining to them the reasons why we cannot speak to them?
Yeah, as a kind of a general boilerplate response, the general response is, you know, dear Joe Smith, you're not listed as a contact on this application record. Therefore, the department is unable to provide you information. If the applicant would like to add you to this record, they can submit a modification request to add you as a contact. You know, then it's up to the applicant. Sometimes we get correspondence from, you know, law firms that are claiming to represent applicants or licensees. They get the same response. To the extent that somebody is reaching out and submitting letters on behalf of an applicant or licensee, we send them an email saying, you know, on this date, DCR received this communication from somebody who was complaining to be your legal representative. You know, if you would like to reach out to us directly, you know, please respond to this email or call us and we'll talk to your analyst about whatever's included in the letter. But unfortunately, we're not going to share information with this person unless they're added to your account. If you want to add them, please submit a modification request and we'll update the contacts accordingly. So stuff like that. There's not always a lot of follow through in terms of submitting information. And sometimes different business partners have different perspectives on how the business should be operated. And we're not going to get involved in those internal business disputes. And until the business entity comes together and figures out what they want to do in terms of submitting a modification request or updating their records, you know, DCR really isn't in a position to move something forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then the same thing with, I understand we get a lot of legal questions or questions about business advice. We've just got to make sure, though, that in every instance we should be responding, because there's nothing more frustrating than not getting a response. So, you know, to the extent we can get any kind of response out to address it, let's go ahead and make sure that we continue to do so. And we shouldn't get bogged down. I understand we're also getting questions about some hypotheticals, and we just don't have the resources to entertain those. And so if we can just have some internal guidelines and have staff be given specific instructions about how to address those particular inquiries. The more that we can streamline this and make it efficient, I think the better. And it's super imperative given the capacity constraints that we have. So let's continue to move forward on that front. I do have a question. I'm happy to hear that we've eliminated the property requirement for the next set of licenses that are going out. I'm talking about phase 3, round 2 for the lottery. I think that's going to be very helpful because we're seeing a lot of the unintended consequences that result from the prior requirement. For the non-retail licenses, and I'm talking about deliveries. Well, deliveries, I guess, is kind of retail, but I'm talking about non-storefront. So you've got deliveries, you've got distribution and manufacturing. Are those required to have real estate at this point?
So it depends on where they are in the process. Essentially, the intention is to allow someone to know that the property is eligible for further processing before they'd actually have to have secured that property. And that's exactly what the pre-application process seeks to do. So before someone who's going through the delivery application process or someone who's applying for one of these non-retail licenses, they're required to complete the pre-application process first. And during the pre-application process, they're not required to have secured a lease. What we're doing though is verifying that the location that they're interested in is compliant. And then after we determine that that location was compliant, we would tell them that that location and the application at that location is eligible for further processing. And then if they decided to move forward with actually applying for a license, a temporary approval at that location, as a part of the temporary approval application, they would have to secure a property. And that's consistent with the state's process as well, because as a part of the temporary approval process, they have to apply for a state license. The state isn't going to issue a license without a property. So we tried to bifurcate the process so that there's some level of review and some level of certainty that the applicant can have at a lower cost before they are required, if they're interested in moving forward in the temporary approval process to get that property.
Ms. Packer, is there also a requirement to get some landlord consent as part of that pre-approval, that initial pre-approval process?
Jason, can you take the lead on that question, please?
Yes, there's a requirement for them to provide some proof that if they are deemed eligible for processing, that they would be able to secure that location. The intent there is really just to prevent people from trying to monetize the pre-application review process to flood kind of the system with pre-apps to get locations, pre-approved, and then basically try to swap out applicant entities or sell those spots in the application queue, which isn't allowed by the code. You can't submit a modification request for a modification request. You can't submit a modification request for a PCN request, and you can't submit a modification request for a pre-app request, although folks have tried.
Got it. The other thing is oftentimes a property or some premises may be available. There's a vacancy. And so they may move based on the vacancy. Come to find out that the landlord does not want to lease to a cannabis operator. So I think that protects against that scenario, and it kind of limits some of these extra applications that we otherwise would be dealing with. So I think that's great to hear. I don't have any other questions or comments. One last go around with the commissioners. Is there anything else? And I want to open it up also to staff if there's anything you want to discuss at this time. Okay, if not, I want to go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. The time now is 4:36 p.m. Thank you, everybody.